Remember, quitting drugs is viewed more positively than never taking them. Until we meet again!
Today, we're going to be talking about how to get the most terpenes out of your grow. But before we do, today's video is brought to you by Real Grow Lab. If you want to connect with the best growers from all over the world, get tips and tricks on how to grow the dankest plants possible, and not have to worry about the censorship we get from YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, go check out realgrowlab.com. Get all kinds of great Grow Talk Q&A. Plus, see all the stuff YouTube won't let me show you in these videos. Sign up and join our growing community over at realgrowlab.com. Or download the app at the Apple or Android App Store. Now let's get back to today's video. All right, Hi, see you ready?
I'm ready, man. This is something I'm excited about because you've gotten me to the point where I'm getting some good bulky plant material.
Sure.
But I could definitely use some help on getting those frosty, trichome-filled, terpene-rich nugs. So let's jump into it.
Come on, man. You know, temperature and humidity, environment. Environment is one of the biggest things that I preach. So right off the bat, temperature and humidity are going to make a huge deal.
Okay, so let's talk about temperature and humidity. Is it just across the board, or does that kind of shift between the different stages of
it does.
plant life?
You're setting me up with a softball here. If you think about plants in the summer, it's high temperature, high humidity. As they go into fall and they start to flower, the temperatures do lower, and the humidity, for what it's worth, lowers as well. At least in our grow room, that's what we want.
Okay, so we're always trying to mimic what nature does to the plants inside of the grow room to get them to act the way that they would in
Yes,
nature.
absolutely.
Okay, so let's jump into it. Temperature and humidity for veg versus flower. What should I be shooting for?
In veg, mid to high 70s as far as temperature goes, somewhere around in the 60s as far as humidity goes, but much higher humidity.
Okay, and then when you're going to flip to flower and really focus on those terpene and trichome productions, what are you shooting for there?
For me, I go right into the mid to high 60s. That's practical for me. And right around 40% humidity, somewhere around there, maybe a little bit lower. But that's ideal. You can take a look at VPD charts, which is vapor pressure deficit charts, temperature and humidity, how they combine to affect the plant and allow it to respire. That's what we're going for here, is letting the plant breathe. If there's too much humidity in the plant, it can't breathe. And if there's too little humidity, it just can't hold on to its moisture.
Gotcha. And so that's a small decrease in temperature, but a pretty significant decrease in humidity.
Yeah. I mean, you can go higher in temperature during the summer. I mean, of course, it's higher than 75 in most places. You'll get higher growth rates, but other living things also grow faster in that environment too, specifically bugs. So I like to keep it in the middle range there.
Okay, so the 70s is to keep the plant growing, but also to make it unattractive for bugs.
Yeah, that's me. You could go up a little bit higher and just consult a VPD chart. But the idea here is proper temperature and humidity are huge.
Okay, the next one that we want to talk about as far as getting the most terpenes out of your next grow is...
All right, this one's going to be a little controversial, and I got to admit, I'm kind of excited. I was learning from Dr. Bruce Bugbee and Shane from My Grow, and there's always, people will talk about the 48-hour dark period. There's a bro science about that, and what Bugbee, who is a professional and an expert, said is you'll get more terpenes with a 48-hour light period at the end.
Okay, so I've heard the 48-hour
dark period.
And you're saying the opposite.
Yeah, I'm saying, if you put them in the dark, you're shutting down the energy. The terpenes, the trichomes, rather, are there to shield the plant from all that light.
They're like a sunscreen.
Yeah, so if you got 60 days, why not give them, 1/30th more time?
Well, you turn off the sun, they're going to stop producing the sunscreen.
Exactly.
They stop producing the sunscreen, there goes all your terpene production.
I mean, maybe not all of, yes, your production over the last couple days, although it is slowing down. I got to admit, I thought this was just a fun one to throw in there.
Well, it's worth trying for sure, and it makes sense. It makes more sense to me than the 48 hours of dark. I never understood that one.
Yeah. So in theory, given your Plants 24 hours of light those last couple days might increase terpene production a little bit. But let me know. Have you tried it? Have you gotten good results? I'd love to know in the comments.
And number 3, let's jump into your number 3 tip for getting massive terpenes out of your next grow.
I'll do a 180, and this one will be the least controversial thing.
Okay.
And that is proper drying and curing. This has been around the 60 has been around for a while. It's close to 60 degrees as you can get. It's kind of hard in, a lot of places, but crank your AC down, get it into the mid to low 60s, and then as close as you can get to 60% humidity as well. The idea is we don't want them too dry. Yeah, we're trying to dry them, but slowly to let everything break down in there.
If we stuck at that 40%, it'd be way too dry and the plants would just dry real quick. And what would that lead to?
You get that hay taste. It doesn't have a chance for everything to break down.
Okay. And then a lot of times I see people use a closet that they can shut off all the light to.
Sure.
Cool, dark environment. What's the darkness? What's the point of that?
Light degrades terpenes. That's why you'll see a lot of the storage jars are either dark or completely non-transparent.
Non-opaque?
Opaque. They are opaque.
Okay.
But yeah, light degrades terpenes.
Okay, so this is more about preserving terpenes rather than producing them. You produce them, you want to preserve them, right?
Absolutely. I think all of these are about preserving terpenes, though. If I look the 48-hour before, I guess that's making
that's
terpenes, isn't, all right? Well, your terpenes will volatilize off. You don't have the right temperature and humidity. I got you on that one.
Okay, so 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah. But what's your best tip for producing and then preserving those terpenes in your grow? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please press that like button, smash that subscribe button, and check out the other couple videos YouTube's recommending. I think you like them.
Yeah. So Fox Farms though, I noticed so if you're going to plant a plant in some Fox Farms ocean forest, per se, you plant a plant in there and you veg it out for 2 months and you get that plant monstrous and you're ready to flip it into flower. Now you have to add amendments to there because there's nothing left in it.
Let's back up just a little bit. When you say you planted it for a couple months and it took off monstrous, do you know what's in that mix that makes that plant grow?
Synthetic salts.
It's pretty much what it is, but it's ammonium nitrate. So they spray this ammonium nitrate on sawdust, and that ammonium nitrate is like acid on a fucking slug. So think of the organic and biology that's in there. It's killing. They put that on there. You can throw a pile of that. It's called nitralized sawdust is what the industry calls it as an amendment to mix it. And that's what they buy. Roots Organic, a bunch of them do that as an amendment. And that's their nitrogen pack. And then they tell you they put a bunch of guanos and they do other stuff. They don't put shit on it. That's what it is. And that's the reason the difference between a good quality soil and them, and you just explained it, is it shot up and it grew through veg and it did really well. But the thing it's missing is that now, if you grew in my soil or some good soil, it's not always my soil, but the difference between mine, you're asking, and Fox Farm and all the case studies, Fox Farm with ammonium nitrate in the soil, that plant will shoot up really quick. It grows quick, and it's for tomato plants. Let's just call it tomatoes. We'll just do the tomato, but same thing with any other cultivar, is it shoots up really quick, and it puts off a few tomatoes, and the wind comes, and that plant has no structure, and it falls over, and it's lanky, right? Yeah. My soil versus the same tomato plant, you got a fucking heavy stalk, you got this plant that just fucking sits up and does its thing, and it's putting off tomatoes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the difference. And why does mine do that? Because I have a living soil concept behind it. I want you to grow with bacteria. I want you to grow with fungi. I want you to do everything that is healthy in that plant. The last thing you want to do is feed ammonium nitrates in a tomato to your kids at the dinner table. Once you know, kind of, so.
Pick a strain, whatever you want, you could get. Indica, sativa, never rolling plain Jane. I know some people, if you want drive 50, we ain't gon' cop any. Little mama got plenty, so many strain, puffing the flame, nothing but dro. One for the brain, one for the body, one for the soul. Running with strange, keeping the party under control. Up, away, flying, how far are we gonna go? Smoke team in the building, got 'em, it's what the deal is. Recognize coming with Burns, Felix with Filming County boy, got the liquor. Casso was on the fader, Stevie came with the greenery, mixing multiple flavors, whatever you want, homie. Tell me when to say when. How about you and your friends? Come get with me and my friends and keep it real with me, girl. I don't wanna pretend like this is a new thing. Really, that's what it's been like.
Warning, if you're not 18 years old, to get the f off this video. Everything you see is for educational and documentary purposes only. Viewers' discretion is advised.
This is it, man. This is what your grandchildren are going to be smoking. Future. That future.
What's up, y'all? Thank you for tuning in to Deuce of Farms. Before we get into this video, could you guys hit the like button, as that does help us out a lot. I'll keep mentioning it, but I do plan on doing another seed giveaway once we get to about 2,500 subs. So if you guys would be interested in that, go ahead and leave a comment down in the comment section. In this video, I'll be showing the journey so far on this deep water culture hydroponics setup. This will be a 3-part series, with this one being the veg portion, followed by the flower, and of course the harvest at the very end. I'm sorry, I wish I would have got footage from the point where I started out originally from the germination, but I didn't get any footage from that. All I have is the pictures from the day they popped up through the clay pebbles. These seeds are from a cookie dog plant that got crossed with the purple punch. It was all an accident from a previous grow. The purple punch ended up herming out and it pollinated everything around it, which was a whole bunch of purple punch, and then of course this one cookie dog. I made many mistakes in the previous grows and I learned lessons from them. Yeah, I took L's, but I learned from them, so it's not really an L. This is my first hydro grow, so I wanted these plants to be the best so far. I also upgraded the lights to the MaxiSun PB4000 to maximize my coverage within the tent and see if I could bring in half a gram to a gram per watt, which this light does pull 400 watts, so I'm aiming for about half a pound to a whole pound. At day 11, I decided to top them to encourage some side growth for bushier plants, and now at day 16 you can see the 2 new tops coming in. The front left plant is definitely getting bushy. The back left plant, it got topped on this day unlike the other 3, just because it wasn't quite ready. It didn't have that main top yet, so I gave it a little time. At this point, I started to fall in love with DWC only because of the rapid growth, and it wasn't like anything I've experienced so far in any soil runs. 2 days have passed and it's now day 18 and the growth just continues. It's like I go and come back after a couple hours and I could already see the new growth. The back left plant now has 2 new noticeable tops to match the others, and each plant is definitely getting thicker. The leaves looked and felt weird at this point. I assumed it being to over water absorption, as they are in water all day and maybe not enough airflow. I wasn't too sure at this point, but I wasn't too worried either. At day 23, I really became worried and started trying to figure out what was going on. My initial thought was overwatering, but it didn't make sense to me due to it being in a hydro system, so of course they'd be in water, as I've seen plenty other hydro systems successful. Overwatering in soil causes a plant to drown and lose airflow, so I made sure the air pump was actually working and providing proper airflow, which it was. But after 2 days, the plant still continued to look worse. The yellowing increased, leaves dropped more, and the stems became more purple. These plants were definitely stressed, and at this point, honestly, I just wanted to give up. up and start over because I just could not figure out what was going on. But I knew I needed to learn from this, so I kept researching, and I thought maybe the pH was off, so that plants just weren't properly absorbing the water. I originally pH'd the water to 5.8, but when I checked the water, it was at 6.49, which I assume could be from the plants absorbing the nutrients in the water, and that just caused the pH to rise as those nutrients left the water, and that just made sense to me. So I prepared some more water, which I just used plain tap water, and I let it sit out for a couple of days so that the chlorine and whatever other harmful chemicals within that tap water just evaporates. I made this water slightly more acidic since I was going to be refilling the hydro systems rather than emptying them out, and that water would just mix with the new water and it would get in the correct range, which was about 5.8 to 6.2. Then once the water was ready, I had it all pH. All I did was I got a pitcher, I filled it up, and I just made sure that I refilled each bucket, and I paid attention to where I refilled it to. I didn't want to fill it too high, I just wanted to put it right below the basket. But anyways, after refilling them, that did bring the pH down back to 5.87, which was in the optimal range for them to be able to absorb the nutrients. The next day, on day 26, I came in and checked them, and some were looking a bit better, but I still thought that there was something else wrong. The back right plant became more yellow. Some of the other plants looked as if they recovered, the purpling went away, but that back right plant, it just became more yellow, and I knew that they weren't just going to recover overnight, but I had a feeling that it wasn't just the pH, because I knew growers that didn't pH at all, and their plants looked healthy all the time. So I got on Reddit trying to find others with a similar issue to find some type of answer. I found that it could be root rot because symptoms include the plant looking as if it was overwatered or lacking oxygen. At the time, I never experienced root rot, so I didn't know. I didn't get any footage of the roots at the time, but they looked good to me. They were white and all, they looked healthy. There was no slime or the brownish in them. But me being a new grower, I wanted to play it safe, so I did some researching and I found a product that a lot of people recommended for root rot, which was HydroGuard, but it wouldn't arrive for a few days. And the only thing I had on hand for roots was mycorrhizae, so I decided to dump some into each bucket and hope things got better, or at least it helped out and held over until the HydroGuard came in. I also decided to get rid of the yellowing leaves, the ones that were dying off pretty much, only because I knew they would just wilt and die off and fall on the ground anyway, so I just wanted to clean it up and make it look a little bit nicer, just for when the plants recovered it looked better. I was kind of upset because these families were big. They're underdeveloped right now only because the plants are young, but I had to get them out of the way to make the plants look better. On day 30, all the plants looked as if they had bounced back and were back to growing rapidly. I would assume it's safe to say mycorrhizae definitely helped out in some way. It may not be the sole reason, but it definitely helped out, it seems like. Also, on this day, I looked into the buckets, and that's when I was finally able to see the signs of root rot, which is crazy because I thought I'd be able to see this before I actually saw the physical signs of the plant, but you can see that brownish slime. Later in the day, the HydroGuard finally came in, which is just a product to protect against things such as root rot. The plants were already recovering, yes, but I wanted to play it safe and still use this as well. According to the directions, the recommended dosage is about 2 milliliters per gallon. Each of these buckets were filled up to maybe the 3-gallon mark, so what I did was I added 6 milliliters to each bucket, just eyeballing it. I'm assuming it's 3 gallons. And then from there I just stirred it up, and that was pretty much it. You can mix it prior to, put it in your water and then add it, but I just decided to add it straight to the bucket. We are now at day 32. They've fully recovered, gaining some nice size. I originally planned on flipping them to flower at day 30, so they would have been flipped to flower by now. But I wanted to really utilize my grow space and get a nice big canopy going. I learned from previous grows not to focus on a timeline, but to just read the plants and let them become ready, rather than forcing them to finish when I want them to. They probably could be flipped now, but I don't think I'd be pleased with the results. After all, I'm trying to make this the best grow yet. The roots are looking better as well. The new roots are coming in and completely covering in the old damaged roots. I witnessed time after time just how resilient cannabis plants are, and that's just one thing that amazes me about them. After realizing that the water's pH can increase after the plant absorbs those nutrients, I've gotten into the habit of constantly checking the pH to always keep it in the correct range for that optimal growth. I want to see these plants continue to thrive. Also, I got a ppm and an EC meter so that I'm making sure the plant not only gets the right pH, but also gets the right amount of nutrients within the water. So, great investment right here. They're fairly cheap on Amazon. I got it for about maybe under 20 bucks. I want to say about 15 to 20. I just use the recommended feeding chart for my nutrients to see what the ppm should be at, and then I make adjustments based off my plant's needs. I wanted to implement some type of low stress training, but I didn't want to go through the trouble of drilling holes in the buckets to attach the garden wire. So I decided to use a trellis net to help me train these plants, and I'll adjust it as they grow. With the growth of these plants, I can tell the trellis net will definitely help during the flower stage when the buds are massive. The next day, on day 33, they're already pointed back up towards the light, but I want to get a more even and full canopy. So to accomplish that, I'm going to top them again and allow the lower growth to catch up, giving these plants a few extra tops. With there being more tops, that gives each plant the ability to produce more main colas, with hopefully some baseball bat looking branches with those huge buds at the end. When topping, I cut high enough so that there's a decent amount of the stem still intact. What this does is it allows the stem to be stronger so that when the new tops come in, there isn't any splitting of that stem. If I never top these plants, they would just have that one main cola and be shaped like Christmas trees. Leave a comment down below whether you top your plants or not. Also, how many times do you guys typically top your plants, if you do or not? And if you do you aim for like a certain amount of main? Main tops instead? I would love to hear from you guys down in the comment section. Day 36, and this was early in the morning, right as the light cut on, so the plants are still tired and they haven't woken up yet. I think of it like when my alarm goes off in the morning, but I turn it off and just lay there in bed just before I get up and get active. The plants just have to wake up a little bit before they start to perk up. Today, these plants are getting a water change so that I can clean the buckets as well as them getting some fresh water. I've done a few water changes up until this point, but I didn't record them because sometimes making sure I record every little thing does become a hassle, but I try to do my best. When doing the water change, I place these plants in a spare bucket of fresh pH water. Then I empty out these buckets so I can clean them as well as the air tubes. then just place the plants back inside, and then I pour in the new water into the buckets. Now that each bucket has had the water changed, I'm just going to replace the trellis net so that it can continue to support the branches as the plants grow day by day. Looking at these plants, everything looks good, and the leaf development is better than any other plants I've grown as far as the size and the points. I did some research and I found that healthy, rapid growing cannabis plants can have leaves with several points rather than just the typical 5. This plant's leaf has 9 points, so that's a good sign that things are growing well, and I hope this translates to the final results come harvest time. Day 40 and these plants have exploded with growth. 4 days ago, they were barely at the trellis net, and now they have completely passed it by several inches. I've had 3 grows previous to this, and each of them has progressively gotten better as time went on and I learned more. But out of all these grows, nothing compares to this. This hydro system has definitely been a game changer for me. I was hesitant at first, but it seemed like it would actually be a lot more work than what it is. To me, it's less work because I'm not watering as frequently. Comment down below which grow method you prefer, and if you haven't tried hydro yet, are you thinking about it? These plants are starting to get a bit bushy, and some of the lower growth is being covered by the big fan leaves. So I decided that it was time to trim them and just get a little bit of defoliating going on so I could expose that lower growth to the light. After all, I do want to get a more even and full canopy as I get closer and closer to switching them to flower. Now with all of those extra fan leaves out of the way, I can see the new growth coming in, and now they'll be able to grow much faster due to more light hitting them. I could have left those fan leaves there, but then the canopy wouldn't have been as full come flower time. The lower growth would have just produced some popcorn sized buds, and they most likely wouldn't have finished at the same time as the top colas because of the light not hitting them. Another reason for defoliating is that it helps lower the overall humidity within the temp. Every part of the plant has water within it, so by alleviating the extra leaves, it's helping out with that. Higher humidity levels are breeding grounds for pests. Dealt with fungus gnats in the past, and I don't want to go through that again. So by alleviating that, it just lowers that and mitigates that risk. Also, lastly, on this day, all these females decided to show their sex, and they are, like I said, all in fact female, so that's a great sign. It is now day 42. The water uptake from these girls steadily increases week by week. At the beginning of this grow, I can go like 2 weeks without having to refill the water, and now I'm having to top the water almost twice a week. I started using the General Hydroponics Florinora series, the grow, and for flower I'll be using the bloom. The NPK ratio for this is 7, 4, and 10. Originally, I used the Flora Grow Trio, but I'm all about making the work easier and more simple for myself. Plus, it's already pH stabilized, so that helps with the fluctuations of the water's pH. I also use silica so the plants can be stronger as well as less susceptible to disease. I use that along with the HydroGuard in every watering. As far as the nutrients concerned, since it's already pre-mixed, I just add it until I get the correct ppm I was aiming for. I use this chart as a reference on what the ppm should read. Remember, it's just a reference, and depending on your plant, you may need a higher or lower reading to keep the plants happily growing. I use a gallon pitcher. I used to use the gallon jugs, but I upgraded to a pitcher. And then I refill each bucket with around 2 to 3 gallons of water, depending on how low the water level is. I like this hydro system because it has the blue tubes on the side, which I've seen some people say that's bad, but actually, I mean, as long as I'm maintaining it, I don't have to worry about any algae or any mildew, mold, or whatever. But I use it as an indicator to see how low the water level is without myself actually having to open up the lids and see. I put the lines on the tubes as well as reference points, so that way I know where the actual 3 gallon to 2 gallon mark is on them. So far, deep water culture has been a game changer for me. I'm thinking about switching solely to DWC, or maybe at least majority of it. I know I'll probably dedicate this whole 8x4 tent to just the hydroponic systems, but now I'm pleased with the size of these plants and just how the canopies turned out so far. I thought about letting them veg for another week, but space is limited and they're going to continue to grow and flower, especially in those first 2 weeks. So today is going to be their last day in veg, and then I'm going to be flipping them to flower. I honestly can't wait to see the buds they produce. That's going to wrap up this video, and part 2 will be coming soon once they have finished flowering.
So this is day 3 of the KOV challenge. So one of the things that we're supposed to do is ask a question, and one of the questions I'm interested in is, what do you think about my channel? When I started this channel, I started it, well, for me, I'm a type A personality and I needed to relax. I have some disabilities that are related to stress, and it seems like people like them and watch them. But you guys tell me what you think. Bye.
We kept plugging away with the weed deliveries, and we kept meeting different kinds of smokers, like this lady. She's an I'm only creative if I smoke smoker. She believes weed, and only weed, brings out the artist in her.
Would you like to hear some of my poetry?
Not really.
You really should. I have killed. I have helped kill. I have killed part of myself. I cannot change this. I must seek Buddha. I must seek Christ.
You must seek therapy. That's where I would go with that, but that's my own. The MacGyver smoker is a very handy guy to have around, especially when it comes to reefer.
Hey man, we're out of papers. All right, then get me a toilet paper roll, a corkscrew, and some tin foil. We don't have a corkscrew. All right, then get me an avocado, an ice pick, and my snorkel. Trust me, bro, I've made bongs with less. Hurry up.
And then you got your straight-up pothead. Now you can spot these people by their lack of motivation, mood swings, forgetfulness, and of course, the dreaded low sperm count. I don't know which one of these categories we fall into, but I'll tell you this. We ain't no goddamn potheads. Shit.
Which parent are you? In the bustling city of Nutriville, a group of extraordinary individuals has emerged, known far and wide as the Superfood Parents. They are on a mission to transform their families' lives through the power of nutrition, one delicious bite at a time. Meet Chef Laquita Marie, the culinary mastermind behind the Superfood Parents playbook. With boundless enthusiasm, she welcomes you to embark on a thrilling journey to becoming a true superfood hero. But what exactly does that mean? In Nutriville, Superfood Parents are everyday heroes. These Superfood Parents lead the charge for better health, but not with capes. They lead with carrots, and whole food fats like avocados. And instead of masks, they lead with mangoes and berries. Fruits and vegetables are the disease-destroying arsenal of heroes. Are you a disease destroyer superhero for your loved ones? Fruits and veggies fuel the mission of heroes like Veggie Vixen. Are you a Veggie Vixen for your loved ones? Dedicated to ensuring their loved ones thrive on a diet rich in faves, fruits and vegetables. Here's your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to guide your family to superhero status by reaching the highest levels of health and wellness daily. Become a plant-powered titan, a superfood avenger, or even a face crusader by earning 5 points for every fruit or vegetable eaten. It's a fun-filled quest where nutrition meets excitement. All of the digital details are at superfoodparents.com for the full experience. Superfood Parents has also created workbooks, where you'll discover the tools you need for success. These workbooks give you the heroic strategies to craft your grocery list like a seasoned hero. Which means you now have a playbook to even track your weekly meals like a true champion. And engage in mind-bending nutritional education with word searches that will keep your family entertained and informed. So, are you ready to join the ranks of the Superfood Parents? Are you prepared to unleash the power of faith and make every meal a heroic endeavor? If so, flip the page of the Superfood Playbook and let's begin your journey to becoming the ultimate superfood hero.
To become a sponsor, just visit superfoodparents.com.
Cannabis legalization keeps getting more and more popular, but have you ever thought about what kind of impact it's having on our planet? As someone who's been working in the cannabis industry for years, I've been thinking about this question for a long time. So in this video, we're going to look at all of the ways that growing all of this legal weed is really contributing to the degradation of our whole planet. And I'm going to show you some lesser known sides of the cannabis industry that really don't make any sense, and we're going to look at what we could do to actually make a difference. One of the major concerns related to large-scale indoor cannabis cultivation is just the energy consumption. And that's because these big grow rooms use a ton of energy. Just the grow lights themselves take a ton of energy, and lots of these warehouses were running like 1100 watt double-ended high-pressure sodium bulbs. We might be running hundreds and hundreds of bulbs depending on the size of the grow facility. The lights in every flowering room are on for 12 hours a day, and when one set of lights is off, that just means another set of lights somewhere else is on, so the building is always running a ton of lights. And that's just for the flowering. You also got the lights for veg and the lights for your clones. All of these massive grow lights and all of these massive grow ballast make a ton of heat. So you're spending a whole lot of money to light your plants, but you're also warming your building up by a lot. And now the building is too hot for the plants to be happy in. So now you also have to run really strong air conditioners, like all the time. So there goes a whole lot more electricity, but you also have hundreds or maybe even thousands of plants in an indoor space, and you're watering them all the time. So it gets really humid in the building too, like more humid than the plants would want. So you also are running huge humidifiers all day, every day. Not like little humidifiers you run at your house either. These are huge commercial grade humidifiers in like every grow room. They're all over the building. Plus it's Colorado, so it gets really cold in the winter, so we have to have a lot of heating too, and you have to have plenty of ventilation and run tons of fans. There's just a whole lot of electricity being used in a big grow room. And that's just in one building. And there's a ton of these buildings just in this city, and there's a ton of cities just like this all over the US and in Canada, and they're starting to pop up in all kinds of other countries too. So overall, this is a lot of power we're using to grow weed that's just contributing to greenhouse gases. And if you were to look at the carbon footprint of the marijuana industry as a whole, it would probably be humongous. Just here in Denver, the Department of Public Health and Environment data from 2019 showed that nearly 4% of Denver's electricity is now devoted just to growing weed. And according to a another estimate, indoor cannabis cultivation in the United States consumes around 1% of the country's total electricity usage. For a whole 1% of the country's electricity to be just for growing weed, that's a little crazy. It can also take a lot of water to grow cannabis plants. Growing cannabis outdoors or indoors takes more water than wheat, corn, soybeans, cotton, or rice. And a study reviewing the environmental impacts of indoor cannabis cultivation showed that on average, a cannabis plant consumes an estimated 22.7 liters or 6 gallons of water per day during the growing season. This can result in a decrease in groundwater levels and reduce stream flow. But that just sort of comes with indoor growing. When you're doing all of this indoors rather than outdoors where you would usually grow plants, it's just going to use a lot of energy because you have to fake an entire environment when there's a free one right outside. But that's not the only way that weed is trashing the planet. Weed is like literally trashing the planet in a way that really aggravates me personally. And if you're new here, welcome to The Strange Show. My name is Matt. I'm just a goofy stoner who teaches you all kinds of things about cannabis. I work as a grower in Colorado, and on this channel we explore everything related to weed, like expert guidance, practical tips, and up-to-date information, empowering you to make informed decisions and elevate your cannabis experience. So in states where cannabis is legal, the packaging requirements are usually really strict. Like you have to have child-safe packaging, like child-resistant containers. Lots of states make you have exit bags, and you have to have this container in this bag and all kinds of shit before you're able to leave the store legally. And it's usually just tons and tons and tons of plastic. So much plastic trash comes from the dispensary. Like, I lived downtown in Denver for many years, and there would be a large percentage of tourists that would come through downtown and hit the dispensary to get some weed. And they would be walking down the street, and all they need to do is smoke a joint, and to go buy a joint, they get a plastic tube and a bag and a zip and all kinds of shit. And what do you think most of them do with this shit when they go walking down the road to smoke that weed? They just throw it on the fucking ground. You know how much weed trash I see on the ground all the time? Go walk around downtown in any big city where weed is legal, and you're gonna see a bunch of weed trash on the ground. It's just inevitable, and it sucks. And this is just plastic waste. It's not biodegradable at all. It's just gonna go to some landfill and be in the ground for hundreds and hundreds of years. I mean, didn't we have enough plastic waste already before we legalized weed? Does the weed industry have to add to this too? Can't we do something better? Of course we can do something better, and this is why it pisses me off so bad, because it seems like the answer to what we could do is so obvious. And you might already have an idea of what answer I'm gonna say, but we're gonna cover that in just a second. But that's still not all, because indoor cannabis cultivation also uses lots of pesticides and fertilizers and other chemicals that could be detrimental to human health or the environment. Because when we're using all of this stuff in the grow room, when we're using fertilizer or pesticides or any chemical or Clorox or anything we might be cleaning the grow room with, where do you think it all goes? We wash it all down the drain right into the municipal water supply with all the other water. It goes all to the same treatment plant, that the same water that comes to my house that me and my family drink. And that's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of shit we're putting in the water. And it's not just the grow I work at. There's a ton of grows in this city, and there's a ton of cities like this city in this country, and in Canada, and in other countries. And there's a lot of indoor weed being grown, and there's a lot of stuff going down the drain. And most of the stuff in the legal cannabis industry is highly regulated, so it's not going to be anything really crazy, but there's so much of it. You don't want a ton of pesticides, even if they are like regulated pesticides. You don't want a ton of those going into the water supply. It also doesn't seem good to have like a ton of nutrient salt runoff going into the municipal water supply. What if we're using some weird disinfectant to clean the table and I don't even know what's in it, and I'm just cleaning the table and wash it down the drain? I don't know what that's doing. No one ever really cared. They just wanted to make the money. And now we're growing weed everywhere, and we're flushing shit down the drain everywhere. And even if none of this stuff makes it through like the filtered water that ends up in your sink, the runoff from these chemicals could pollute the waterways. It could harm the fish. Who knows? And don't get me wrong, I don't think that we should get rid of the cannabis industry. Not at all. I love the cannabis industry, and I love being part of the cannabis industry. I just don't want to feel guilty for all the shit we're doing to the planet. But there are a lot of things we could do to make this better, both on a large scale and on a small scale as individual consumers. For using less energy, the really obvious answer is just shifting towards outdoor cultivation. This would use way less energy and way less water. You would have to be way more careful about what you use as a fertilizer fertilizer since it would be going directly into the water source, like directly into the groundwater, but you could definitely do that responsibly. And even though some people might not prefer outdoor weed compared to indoor weed, I think that the average consumer wouldn't really care that much, especially if outdoor weed was way more common and that was just what you were used to seeing. I think most people would just be happy that weed is legal and they can just go to the store and buy it. And of course, there would always be a market for that really controlled environment indoor weed that was just really babied and is really beautiful, but that could be like the connoisseur weed instead of the industry standard, because you can still grow beautiful weed outdoors. And most companies that grow weed would grow their weed outdoors if the environment was right and their state would allow it, but most states don't allow you to just grow big crops of weed outside. They want everything to be indoors, on camera, all locked up and safe and secure, and you gotta pay tons of taxes, and you gotta rent the building every month, and you got to pay taxes every month on your rent, and you know, they just got a ton of rules and regulations, and they're not helping anything. Well, most of them aren't helping anything. And in a lot of places, outdoor growing just isn't possible because of your environment, but in those places, we could shift to like some sort of renewable energy. We could at least try. We could use solar panels or wind turbines, I don't know, something, but nobody even seems to try. And I really understand why, because you need so much power to grow weed that, say, if you were going to power it all with solar panels, your solar panel field would have to be like 50 times bigger than your grow space. But you could at least cover your roof with solar panels, do something. This is also where those laws against driving weed from one state to another state really screw us over. Because there's lots of states where weed is legal to buy for adults, but you can't drive weed from California to Oklahoma and then sell it in a dispensary in Oklahoma. But if you could, that would change everything, because then the states that could grow a ton of weed outside, they could just send that weed all over the country. And then everyone would be less dependent on these really high energy indoor grows. And as far as reducing the packaging waste and all the plastic garbage that comes from the cannabis industry, this one seems really easy to me. And it's really sort of frustrating to me because of how stupid it seems. So one thing that you might not have ever thought about the weed industry is that we end up with a lot of plant waste. Because all this weed we're growing in this facility, really the majority of the weed gets thrown away. Because you gotta think, the only part that we really need is the buds. That's the only part we're trying to sell. So all through the vegetative cycle, every time like you're trimming some stems or some leaves off, those go right in the trash. All through the flowering cycle, anything we trim off the plant goes right in the trash. And a lot of times, even other things that you would think, well, of course they don't throw that away, like the sugar leaf from when you're trimming. A lot of times, even that just goes right in the trash. And a lot of times stuff like sugar leaf will go to make concentrates, but pretty much anything else besides the buds is going to be waste. And even though this is just plant waste, it's literally just leaves and stems, we can't like just compost it, not at all. It's not that easy. The rule for here in Colorado, at least, is that we have to destroy the plant material until it's non-recognizable. So they expect us to chop up this weed so hard that it doesn't even look like weed, or like mix it up with the used soil or something that it's like indistinguishable from marijuana, which is not as easy as you might think. What we usually do is just like put it through a wood chipper or something like that, and then maybe mix it with all of our old cocoa or our old soil. I've spent lots of hours at work in the weed industry just chopping up old weed plants. It's not really a fun day. Okay, I gotta interrupt real quick to show you this old video of me actually chopping up weed with a lawnmower. Those are weed plants in a little wooden box that I am chopping up with a lawnmower. Why did they have me do it with a lawnmower? I have no idea. Shout out to all the ghetto-ass weed grows. But you would think, okay, cool, now it's weed plants and dirt, so now you can just throw that in a compost pile, right? Because it's just plants and dirt. But no, not at all. We have to put it in plastic bags, then we have to put it in a garbage truck, then that garbage truck goes to the regular landfill, and now we've just took dirt and plant and added plastic. More plastic waste. That regulation really sucks because it makes us add a lot of plastic to the landfill that's fucking really unnecessary. But it's also not just as easy as calling up the garbage man and saying, hey buddy, we got some trash. We definitely have to pay a higher fee for them to come pick up and dispose of cannabis waste. They're like, oh, marijuana waste? We're gonna tax the shit out of you for that because it's marijuana. We tax the shit out of everything related to marijuana. Didn't you know? You're in the marijuana game. Everything related to marijuana is taxed heavily. Welcome welcome to the business. So in the legal cannabis industry, practically every grow everywhere is always producing tons of plant waste. Tons of plant waste that you have to wrap in plastic and send to a landfill. And then we're also putting the finished product in little plastic bags that go to the landfill. But why don't we just use the plant waste that we're all making to make hemp plastic? We could use this plant material to make all kinds of hemp plastics. You know how many waste stems we go through? Tons. Every single stem that's ever been grown in the legal cannabis industry has all went to waste. Like 90% of all of the leaves that have ever been grown in the legal cannabis industry have all went to waste, when all of this could have went to biodegradable hemp plastic. Wouldn't you rather buy your weed in biodegradable weed plastic made from the same weed that's in the jar? The jar and the weed inside are all from the same plant? That would be so sick. And it wouldn't make me feel nearly as bad when I seen one of the jars from the dispensary I grow weed for sitting in the gutter, because I would know, oh, that's at least biodegradable hemp plastic. If I throw it in the trash and it goes to the landfill, it's gonna degrade. First off, the weed company could avoid all the labor cost of like paying me or someone else to mulch up all of these weed plants. Then they could also avoid the high cost of getting the weed waste picked up by the trash companies. And then they could either use that product to make hemp plastic themselves, or they could just give that product to a hemp plastic manufacturer to get a really good discount on hemp plastic packaging. Because to us at the grow, all of this weed is just trash at this point anyways, and we have to get rid of it. So if there was a company that would go around and offer to pick up people's weed waste for free, these grow facilities would be happy to give them their weed waste for free just to avoid paying the high fees to the garbage company. Because those fees really add up over a whole year, because they're coming to pick up the trash like once a week. Plus something way easier than that just seems like a complete no-brainer is just allowing us to reuse our old containers. We could just get one jar from the dispensary one time and then wash it out at home and take that same plastic jar back to the dispensary every single time we go. Maybe you have a bag or whatever it is, whatever you have, a bag, a jar, whatever, just wash it out and take it back every single time you go. Let me just bring my own container from home. Who gives a f? I just need a jar. This is a plastic drink cup. Just put some weed in here. I'm gonna take it home and seal it up when I get there. Who gives a f? I mean, I understand the need for child-proof containers, but there has to be a better way than one-time use plastic. And we have had things like this at dispensaries that I've worked at before. There was this company called Green for Green, who describes themselves as the first recycling network for cannabis packaging. And the way it worked is you would just take in your old jars every time you went to the dispensary. So when I went in to get some new weed, I would bring my old jar from last time, and the dispensary would give me a discount on the new weed I'm about to buy because I brought in my old jar. So the dispensary would incentivize the customer to bring back their old jar, and you just bring back your old empty jar, throw it in this cardboard box, and then the people who worked in the packaging department would just get those old containers, wash them out, sanitize them, put new labels on them, and use them all over again. And that dispensary eventually stopped doing that, and I have no idea why. We should have something like that at every dispensary everywhere. It's such a good idea. It's discounts for you as the customer. It's less overhead price for the store because they don't have to buy as much new packaging, and it's less plastic waste in the landfill. It's a win-win-win-win-win all the way around. And even you and I as individual customers can still play a significant role in supporting sustainability in the cannabis industry. First off, if you have access to these old jar recycling services like Green for Green, definitely take in your old jars. If your dispo doesn't do the Green for Green return, or they don't do something like this, ask them to start. I'll link Green for Green's website down in the description. We can also help just by choosing products that have minimal packaging and buying from companies who actually care about sustainability. We don't really need a fancy bag with a box in it with some foil wrapping with a jar inside of that with 50 labels and holographic stickers, but companies still wrap everything up in all of this unnecessary stuff just to make it look more appealing while it's sitting on the shelf. They think that we're gullible enough to buy anything in a silly fancy jar or bag, so show them that they're wrong. You can also reduce the energy consumption that the weed you're buying contributes to by buying weed that's just grown with more sustainable practices. Like if your dispensary offers outdoor weed, that's one great way to promote this. Or even if they just have a greenhouse, that greenhouse is using these grow lights a lot less than just a regular indoor warehouse, because they're getting a large amount of their light from the sun and they're just supplementing it with the grow lights. So if you're buying outdoor weed or greenhouse weed, both of those are better. But even if we do everything we can, we gotta make sure that these huge corporations like Monsanto don't take over the cannabis industry and completely ruin everything. And that isn't just some far off worry. Monsanto is actually already trying to buy up the entire cannabis industry. And I'll show you why that might lead to some very bad things in this video. So make sure you watch this video so you'll see why it's so important that we keep these big companies from taking our whole weed industry away from us. I'll see you there. Peace.
The great state of Missouri was founded August 10th, 1821. So it's founded in the snake year, just like Florida, just like Texas, which basically means if you're a snake, if you're a rooster, if you're born in an ox year, this is a good location for you. But if you're born in pig energy, if you're born in the year of the pig, this is not the place for you to be living in the United States of America.
Give it gas when I'm dipping competition, getting past, living fast, furious, staying on track, never worry when I'm spinning. Last better get in, back, ride from a dog, alphabeted on us, you gon' get it back, never split this pack. Whenever I witness cap, we ain't fucking with your fiction, facts, your conviction lacks. When I get up in my bag, I'ma spend, we ain't tripping off tax, clipping this tag, working on my wish list, cooking this cake, let me flip this stack. You a flash in the pan, while you relaxing, I can't, my team finna pack the sedan, putting tracks in the sand, pushing my craft for the fam, got the people all clapping their hands, putting cash in my brand, keeping my octane high, my graded premium, not 8-9 or 8-7, and when I run across state line, I'm 9-1, I gun it, clock great time, my time come, disappearing in the dark horizon, way I cut turns, I'm as sharp as diamonds, got them on tilt like a car's alignment, this is raw refinement, not a hard assignment, I'ma give it gas, give it gas, bitch.